What would it feel like to already be a billionaire? Not in the distant future, but right now. Imagine waking up each morning with absolute certainty that wealth is yours, that it is your natural state. Would you feel anxiety over bills? Would you worry about financial struggles? Or would you move through your day with complete ease, knowing that unlimited resources are already at your disposal? This feeling, this deep, unshakable conviction, is what shapes reality. The moment you assume the state of wealth, you have planted the seed, and once planted, it must grow. You do not need to force it into being, nor must you struggle or figure out how it will unfold. Your only responsibility is to persist in the feeling, to dwell so deeply in the consciousness of wealth that the outer world has no choice but to bend to your assumption. Many struggle with this concept because they trust their senses. They look at their bank accounts, at their financial circumstances and say, "But this is my reality. How can I feel wealthy when my current situation tells a different story?" But understand this. What you see now is merely a reflection of your past thoughts, your past assumptions, your past state of being. The present moment is nothing more than the residue of what you once believed to be true. If you continue to react to it, if you continue to base your emotions and assumptions on what your senses report, you will remain locked in the same cycle, reinforcing the same experience over and over again. You must break free from the illusion of appearances and step into the truth that you are the creator of your reality. Do not allow what you see to dictate what you feel. Allow what you feel to dictate what you see. Close your eyes and feel the wealth. See yourself living in luxury. Imagine the details vividly. Where do you live? What do you wear? How do you spend your days? Let it become so real in your mind that you can taste it, touch it, experience it fully. The subconscious mind does not distinguish between what is real and what is imagined. It simply accepts whatever you repeatedly impress upon it as fact. If you tell it through feeling, through assumption that you are wealthy, it will accept that as your truth and will begin reshaping your world accordingly. Opportunities will arise, resources will flow, the right people and circumstances will be drawn to you, all as a response to your inner state. Doubt may try to creep in. Old patterns of thinking may resurface, whispering that this is not real, that wealth is something external, something earned through struggle and effort. But you must remain steadfast in your new state of consciousness. The moment you catch yourself slipping into worry or lack, shift immediately back into the feeling of abundance. Remind yourself that wealth is already yours, that it is not something you are waiting for, it is something you are. Gratitude is a powerful tool in this process. When you feel grateful for what you already have, you are affirming abundance. Gratitude shifts your focus from what is missing to what is present, and what you focus on expands. Begin to see everything in your life as evidence of your wealth. The air you breathe, the roof over your head, the food on your table, all of it is proof that abundance flows to you, that you are already living in a state of receiving. The more you recognize and appreciate this, the more you will attract. Another key aspect is detachment. True wealth consciousness does not cling, does not chase, does not fear loss. It knows that abundance is infinite, that there is no lack, that money is simply energy that flows freely. The moment you stop obsessing over how the money will come or where it will come from, you open the floodgates for it to appear effortlessly. The need to control, to micromanage, to desperately seek is rooted in scarcity thinking. The moment you let go and trust, you step fully into the state of being wealthy. When you act from a place of certainty. Make decisions as the person who already has everything they desire. Speak as though wealth is your reality. Walk with the confidence of someone who knows they are financially free. This is not about pretending or forcing. It is about embodying the truth that you are already abundant. The universe responds to you in exact proportion to your state of being. If you feel lack, you attract more lack. If you feel wealth, you attract more wealth. There is no other way. The law is precise, unwavering, and always working in your favor. It does not matter where you are now, what your past has been, or what others believe about you. The moment you claim wealth as your inner truth, it must become your outer reality. The feeling comes first, and then the evidence follows. It has always been this way, and it will always be this way. Your external world is nothing more than a mirror, reflecting the state of your inner world. Every thought you think, every assumption you hold, every feeling you dwell in, is projected outward and shapes the world you experience. The mistake most people make is believing that change must first happen externally before they can feel differently internally. They believe they must wait for circumstances to improve before they can feel wealthy, secure, or abundant. But this is the great illusion. The truth is that your world is simply responding to you. It is showing you what you most deeply believe about yourself and life. If you want to change your financial situation, you must first change your consciousness. Consciousness is the foundation of all experience. What you assume to be true about yourself and the world will manifest in your life with absolute precision. If you believe that money is scarce, that wealth is difficult to obtain, that success is reserved for a select few, then these assumptions will shape your experience. You will struggle, you will chase, and you will find yourself caught in a cycle of lack. But if you shift your inner world, if you assume that wealth is natural, that abundance flows to you effortlessly, that you are already in possession of great riches, then the world will reorganize itself to match that assumption. Your mind is the ultimate creator. Every thought you accept as truth is a seed planted in the subconscious, and once planted, it must grow. The subconscious does not argue, does not question, does not discriminate between what is real and what is imagined. It simply takes the dominant impressions you give it and brings them to life. The moment you internalize a belief, the external world begins adjusting to reflect it back to you. This is why you must be vigilant with your thoughts. You cannot afford to entertain ideas of limitation, poverty, or struggle if you wish to experience wealth. Most people allow their senses to dictate their beliefs. They see a lack of money in their bank account and accept it as truth. They experience financial hardship and allow it to define their reality. But the outer world is merely an echo of past thoughts and assumptions. If you react to what you see, you are reinforcing it, keeping yourself trapped in the same cycle. If you want a new reality, you must stop reacting to the old one. You must ignore the evidence of the senses and trust in the unseen power of your mind. You must claim your wealth now, even if the outer world does not yet reflect it. This is the key. Assume the feeling of being a billionaire before the money appears. Walk, talk, and think from the state of abundance. Not in a way that is forced, not as an act of pretending, but as an inner conviction so deep that it becomes your truth. You do not wait for proof. You become the proof. You carry yourself as someone who knows they are financially limitless. You make decisions as the person who has already achieved success. You speak from the confidence of knowing that you have more than enough. This shift in consciousness is not about mere positive thinking, nor about wishful hoping or daydreaming. It is about embodying a state of being so completely that the outer world must conform. Every billionaire you see today, every person who has amassed great wealth, first saw themselves as wealthy within. They carried the consciousness of wealth long before they had the material proof. They did not wait for circumstances to change. They changed themselves and the world followed. You do not need to force things to happen. You do not need to chase money or struggle to bring wealth into your life. Your only responsibility is to assume the feeling of already being the person you wish to be. Once you do this, the world will shift in ways you cannot yet comprehend. Ideas will come to you. Opportunities will present themselves. People and circumstances will move in perfect harmony to bring your vision to life. But none of this happens until you first change your inner world. Doubt may arise. The mind may resist. It may try to pull you back into old ways of thinking. But you must remain firm. You must remind yourself daily that the world is only reflecting your inner state. The moment you assume a new state, the world begins adjusting to match it. This is an unbreakable law. It has always worked this way, and it will always work this way. Your only task is to persist in the assumption of wealth, to embody it so fully that there is no room for anything else. And as you do this, as you commit to living from this new state of being, the world will yield to your vision, and wealth will become your reality. Money is not something you chase. It is something you attract by the person you become, by the state of consciousness you occupy. If you want to shift your financial reality, you must change your subconscious programming. You must replace old limiting beliefs with new empowering ones. Start by seeing money as a natural part of your life, not as something scarce or difficult to obtain. Imagine yourself surrounded by abundance, feeling the ease and security that comes with knowing you are always provided for. Speak of money in positive terms. Appreciate what you have and expect more to flow to you. Gratitude is one of the most powerful ways to align yourself with wealth. When you appreciate what you already have, no matter how small, you send a signal to the universe that you are in harmony with abundance. Gratitude shifts your focus from lack to prosperity, from struggle to ease. It allows you to recognize the wealth that is already present in your life and opens the door for even more to enter. The greatest shift happens when you stop seeing money as something external and start recognizing it as a reflection of your inner world. Money is not separate from you. It is simply an expression of your state of consciousness. The moment you claim your wealth within, the external world will have no choice but to conform. This is not wishful thinking. It is a law as precise as gravity. Assume the feeling of financial abundance. Release all fear and doubt, and watch as the world bends to reflect your inner wealth. When you embody the mindset of a billionaire, you do not seek validation from the external world. You do not wait for circumstances to change before you feel abundant. Instead, you move through life with a quiet confidence, knowing that the world is simply reflecting your inner state. This is the secret that few understand. Wealth is not created through effort alone, but through identity. Who you are in your imagination, what you accept as true in your mind, will inevitably become your reality. The world we perceive is a reflection of consciousness. This perspective shifts reality from being a fixed external construct to a malleable projection shaped by our inner states. To grasp this, we must consider the world not as something happening to us, but as something emanating from within us. The holographic nature of reality suggests that every part contains the whole. Just as a single piece of a hologram can recreate the entire image, our individual consciousness mirrors the infinite potential of the universe. This implies that we are not passive observers in a predetermined world, but active participants. Our assumptions, beliefs, and emotions sculpt the reality we experience, much like a projector casting images on a screen. Reality as we know it is governed by laws that appear fixed, but these laws are a result of collective and individual assumptions. If you assume scarcity, your life reflects limitations. If you assume abundance, opportunities multiply. This principle underscores the creative power inherent within each of us. What you hold as true in your imagination shapes what manifests in your life. The matrix-like structure of the world is not a prison, but a playground for creation. It serves as a feedback system, mirroring our dominant thoughts and feelings. If you find yourself trapped in unwanted circumstances, it is not the world that must change, but your inner dialogue. The outer world is a mirror, and changing the reflection requires altering the source, your consciousness. Belief is the foundation of experience. Every experience, no matter how random it seems, stems from a belief held consciously or subconsciously. The power of assumption is key here. Assume the feeling of your desire fulfilled, and the outer world rearranges itself to reflect that assumption. This process is not magic, but the natural flow of consciousness into form. The law of assumption reveals that what we accept as true becomes true for us. If you persist in assuming that you are healthy, loved, or successful, despite appearances to the contrary, your world will conform to this new reality. Persistence is vital because the world is slow to reflect new assumptions, much like a lagging reflection in a mirror. Imagination is the creative force behind all that exists. Everything begins as an imagined idea before it materializes. When you imagine something vividly and assume it as real, the subconscious mind accepts it as fact and brings it into your experience. The key is to persist in the assumption, even when outer circumstances seem unchanged. The physical senses deceive us into believing that reality is fixed and immutable. However, this is an illusion. The senses report what is, but imagination creates what will be. To transcend the matrix, one must prioritize the unseen over the seen, recognizing that imagination is the first cause of all physical phenomena. The feeling is the secret to shaping reality. Emotion fuels imagination, turning abstract thoughts into tangible experiences. When you feel as though your desire is already realized, you align with its manifestation. The world responds not to empty thoughts, but to the feelings behind them, for feelings are the language of the subconscious mind. Resistance to change often arises from deeply ingrained beliefs. The matrix of reality hardens around these beliefs, creating cycles that feel inescapable. To break free, one must question and replace limiting beliefs with empowering ones. This begins with self-awareness, observing one's inner dialogue and assumptions. Repetition is a powerful tool for reprogramming the subconscious mind. By repeatedly imagining a desired outcome and feeling its reality, the subconscious eventually accepts it as truth. This practice rewires the matrix of your reality, aligning it with your chosen assumptions. The world's holographic nature means that no external force holds power over you. Circumstances are neutral until you assign them meaning. By changing your perception, you change your experience. The key is to see yourself as the creator, not the victim of your reality. The law of reflection demonstrates that the outer world mirrors the inner world. If you wish to change your external circumstances, begin by changing your thoughts, feelings, and assumptions. The world is a canvas, and your consciousness is the brush. Manifestation is a natural process governed by universal laws. It requires no special rituals or tools, only a disciplined focus on the desired outcome. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and persist in that state, the matrix rearranges itself to accommodate your vision. The concept of parallel realities suggests that all possibilities exist simultaneously. By aligning your thoughts and feelings with a desired outcome, you shift into the reality where that outcome is true. This shift happens naturally as consciousness determines the reality you experience. Time is another illusion perpetuated by the matrix. The past, present, and future exist only in relation to consciousness. By assuming the feeling of your desired future now, you collapse time and bring that future into the present. The matrix follows your lead. The power of now cannot be overstated. The present moment is where creation occurs. By focusing your attention on what you desire in the now rather than lamenting the past or fearing the future, you harness the full creative power of consciousness. The subconscious mind is the gateway to altering the matrix. It accepts what you impress upon it, whether positive or negative. By consciously directing your thoughts and feelings, you can reprogram the subconscious to align with your desires, changing the holographic projection of your life. Doubt and fear are the greatest obstacles to creating the life you want. These emotions reinforce the current matrix and delay manifestation. To transcend them, cultivate faith and confidence in your creative power. Trust that the unseen is as real as the seen. Gratitude amplifies the creative process. By feeling grateful for what you desire, as though it is already yours, you accelerate its manifestation. Gratitude aligns you with abundance, dissolving the illusion of lack perpetuated by the matrix. Every challenge is an opportunity to awaken to your creative potential. The matrix presents obstacles not to, but to reveal your power. By persisting in your vision despite challenges, you demonstrate mastery over the holographic world. Meditation and visualization are powerful tools for transcending the matrix. By quieting the mind and vividly imagining your desired outcome, you impress the subconscious with new assumptions. This practice bridges the gap between the unseen and the seen. Success in reshaping the matrix requires discipline and persistence. The world may resist your new assumptions, initially reflecting old beliefs. By remaining steadfast in your vision, you eventually overcome this resistance, and the matrix conforms to your new reality. The ultimate realization is that the matrix is not separate from you. It is a reflection of your consciousness, a dynamic mirror responding to your every thought and feeling. By taking responsibility for your inner state, you reclaim your power as the creator of your experience. In the end, the question of whether the world is a hologram or matrix becomes irrelevant. What matters is understanding that you are the architect of your reality. The world is a reflection of your imagination, and by mastering your inner state, you shape the outer world to your liking. Every moment presents a choice: to react to the world as it appears, or to consciously create from within. By choosing the latter, you step into your true power as a deliberate creator. The more you align with this understanding, the more fluid and harmonious your experience of the matrix becomes. Obstacles dissolve, synchronicities multiply, and your life transforms into a reflection of your highest vision. Ultimately, the matrix is not a trap but a tool. It exists to help you realize the boundless nature of your consciousness. By engaging with it intentionally, you move beyond limitation and into infinite possibility. This realization frees you to live with purpose, joy, and the unwavering knowing that you are the master of your reality. And that's it for the day. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to share your thoughts and insights in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it already. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next video.
What if I told you that every wealthy person you admire, from Rockefeller to Gates to Bezos, discovered one secret that the masses will never know? What if the reason you're still struggling financially has nothing to do with your work ethic, your education, or even your circumstances? What if wealth was never meant to be earned, but remembered? Stay with me, because by the end of this revelation, you'll never look at money the same way again. My friends, I must tell you something that will disturb your peace, but it will set you free. You have been living under a spell, a collective hypnosis so complete, so pervasive, that you mistake it for reality itself. From the moment you drew your first breath, you were indoctrinated into the religion of lack. Your parents, meaning well, taught you that money doesn't grow on trees. Your teachers convinced you that only the smart ones or the lucky ones become wealthy. Society programmed you to believe that abundance belongs to everyone except you. But here's what they never told you. Wealth is not a reward for good behavior. It is your natural inheritance. The entire economic system is built on one fundamental lie, that there isn't enough to go around. This scarcity programming runs so deep that even when money flows into your life, you sabotage it. You spend it quickly, lose it mysteriously, or feel guilty for having it. And here's the most shocking part. The wealthy elite know this secret and deliberately keep it hidden. Why? Because a population that knows its true power cannot be controlled. You see, they need you to believe in limitation. They need you to accept that wealth is reserved for the chosen few. They need you to think that your circumstances determine your destiny. Because the moment you realize that consciousness creates reality, not the other way around, their entire house of cards collapses. I have walked among the wealthy, lived in their circles, observed their methods, and I can tell you without hesitation, they do not work harder than you. They do not sacrifice more than you. They do not deserve it more than you. The only difference is in their consciousness, their unwavering assumption of abundance. Now let me share with you the most profound truth about money that has ever been spoken. Money is not a thing. It is a state of consciousness. Everything in this universe is vibration. Your thoughts vibrate. Your emotions vibrate. And yes, money vibrates at a specific frequency. The wealthy don't work harder. They vibrate differently. Think of your consciousness like a radio dial. Right now, most of you are tuned to the frequency of struggle, 93.5 FM. Struggle. You're broadcasting lack, limitation, and I hope this works out. But wealth broadcasts on an entirely different station, 98.5 FM. Abundance. The multimillionaires I've known personally don't wake up wondering if they'll have enough. They don't check their bank balance with anxiety. They don't negotiate from desperation. They operate from a place of absolute knowing that money flows to them as naturally as water flows downhill. But here's what will shock you even more. This frequency of abundance is not something you develop. It's something you return to. You were born broadcasting abundance. It was your natural state before the world taught you to tune into scarcity. Watch a child at play. They assume they can have anything they desire. They don't question their worthiness. They don't calculate odds. They simply assume with complete faith that their wishes will be fulfilled. This is your original consciousness, before it was corrupted by well-meaning adults who had forgotten their own power. The good news is that you can tune into this frequency right now. You don't need to wait for permission, education, or the perfect opportunity. The dial is in your hands. The moment you stop trying to get wealth and start being wealthy in consciousness, everything shifts. Opportunities appear. People respond differently. Resources become available. Not because the external world changed, but because your inner world transformed first. Let me tell you about the conversation happening in your mind right now. As you listening this, one voice is saying, "This sounds too good to be true." Another is whispering, "But what about my bills? What about my responsibilities?" This, my friend, is the voice of your conditioning. It's not your voice. It's the collective voice of everyone who taught you to fear abundance. The wealthy have a completely different inner conversation. When they see an expensive item, they don't think, "I can't afford that." They think, "How can I afford that?" When they encounter an opportunity, they don't ask, "What if I fail?" They declare, "This is mine." Their mental diet consists of thoughts of expansion, not contraction. They feed their consciousness with images of overflow, not images of lack. But here's the secret within the secret. They don't think these thoughts to get rich. They think these thoughts because they already know they are rich. I once knew a man who built a fortune from nothing. When I asked him the secret, he said, "Neville, I never once doubted I was meant to be wealthy. Even when I had no money, I knew I was rich. It was just a matter of time before the world caught up to my inner knowing." This is the consciousness of the wealthy. They don't hope for abundance, they expect it. They don't work for wealth, they work from wealth. They don't try to become prosperous, they assume they already are. Now, I'm going to reveal to you the exact mental conversation that has created more millionaires than any business strategy. But first, you must understand why your current inner dialogue is sabotaging every opportunity. The poor man's inner conversation sounds like this: "I hope this works. Maybe I'll get lucky. I'll try my best. I can't afford to fail." The wealthy man's inner conversation sounds like this: "This will work. I am fortunate. I am successful. Failure is not an option because I am abundance itself." Do you see the difference? The poor man speaks from hope and fear. The wealthy man speaks from knowing and power. One is begging reality to change. The other is commanding it to conform to his consciousness. Your words are not mere sounds. They are creative forces. Every time you say, I can't afford it, you're creating more of not being able to afford. Every time you declare, I am wealthy, you're impressing your subconscious with the reality of wealth. Now I'm going to give you the master key that unlocks every financial door. The feeling is the secret. You see, most people have it backwards. They think, when I get the money, then I'll feel abundant. But the truth is, when you feel abundant, then you get the money. Your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between a real experience and an imagined one. If you can genuinely feel what it's like to have financial freedom, not just think about it, but feel it, your subconscious will move heaven and earth to make it your reality. Close your eyes right now. Imagine checking your bank account and seeing more money than you've ever had. Don't just see the numbers, feel the relief, the freedom, the power. Feel how your shoulders relax. Feel how your breathing deepens. Feel the quiet confidence that comes with true security. That feeling you just experienced, that's not fantasy. That's memory. You're remembering your natural state before the world convinced you to forget it. But feeling wealthy once is not enough. You must make this feeling your habitual state. You must feel abundant when you wake up in the morning. You must feel prosperous when you're paying bills. You must feel wealthy even when your bank account tells a different story. This is not pretending. This is recognizing. You're not faking abundance. You're remembering it. Because the truth is, abundance is your natural state. Scarcity is the illusion. I have seen this principle work countless times. A woman I knew felt so wealthy in her imagination that she began walking differently, speaking differently, carrying herself differently. Within months, she received an inheritance she didn't even know existed. A man felt so prosperous that he started making decisions from abundance rather than fear. Soon, his business tripled in value. The feeling always comes first. The manifestation always follows. But here's what most people don't realize. You're already feeling your way into your future. If you feel poor, you're creating more poverty. If you feel stuck, you're creating more stagnation. I'm about to show you how to redirect this creative power. Now here's a technique that has created more millionaires than any business strategy ever could. Instead of affirming, I will be wealthy, you must affirm, I am wealthy. Instead of saying, I want financial freedom, you declare, I have financial freedom. Your subconscious mind accepts whatever you persistently claim about yourself as true. If you keep saying, I'm trying to get rich, it will keep you in a state of trying. But if you consistently claim, I am prosperous, it must externalize that claim. But, and this is crucial, you must feel the truth of what you're claiming. Empty words create empty results. When you say, I am wealthy, you must generate the feeling of wealth within your being. I'm about to share now with you the most powerful wealth affirmation ever created, one that has transformed paupers into princes. But first, you must understand why most affirmations fail. The reason most affirmations produce no results is that people recite them mechanically, without feeling, without faith, without the assumption of their truth. They hope the words will work magic, but words without feeling are dead. The correct technique is this. You must speak your affirmations from the consciousness of already being what you affirm. When you say, I am wealthy, you must feel yourself to be wealthy. You must speak from wealth, not toward wealth. Here's the most powerful wealth affirmation I have ever discovered. I am the operant power of God, and my consciousness of abundance is now externalizing itself as unlimited financial prosperity in my world. But don't just repeat these words. Feel them, know them, become them. Let them permeate every cell of your being until you no longer hope they're true. You know they're true. The reason your previous attempts at wealth consciousness have failed is simple. You were trying to convince yourself rather than assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. When you repeat, I am rich, while feeling poor, you create internal conflict. Your subconscious rejects the affirmation because it contradicts your emotional state. The wealthy don't affirm their wealth. They assume it. They don't try to feel abundant. They are abundant in their consciousness first, and the external world conforms. Here's the correct technique. Instead of mechanically repeating words, you must assume the feeling of wealth as your natural state. Walk as though you're wealthy. Speak as though you're wealthy. Make decisions as though you're wealthy. Not because you're pretending, but because you're remembering who you really are beneath the layers of conditioning. I must tell you about the great law that governs all manifestation. As within, so without. As above, so below. Your external world is nothing more than a reflection of your internal world. Change the inner, and the outer must follow. Most people try to change their circumstances first, hoping this will change how they feel. But this is working backward. You must change your consciousness first, and your circumstances will conform to match your new state of being. Now I'm going to reveal the one technique that has never failed to produce wealth when properly applied. But I must warn you, this requires complete abandonment of your current limited identity. This is the visualization technique that has created more fortunes than all the business books combined. Every night before sleep, construct a scene that implies you already possess the wealth you desire. Don't visualize getting the money, visualize having it. See yourself writing a large check to charity without a second thought. Feel yourself casually purchasing something expensive. Imagine friends congratulating you on your success. Make it real in your imagination. Hear the sounds. See the colors. Feel the textures. Loop this scene until it becomes so natural, so familiar, that it feels like a memory rather than a fantasy. But here's the crucial part most people miss. You must feel the naturalness of wealth. You must imagine wealth as your normal, everyday reality. Not as something exciting or surprising, but as your natural state. The wealthy don't get excited about money. They expect it. They don't marvel at abundance. They assume it. Your visualization must capture this feeling of naturalness, this assumption that wealth is simply who you are. I knew a man who visualized signing contracts for millions of dollars, but he made a crucial error. In his imagination, he was excited and grateful, as if receiving wealth was unusual for him. Years passed with no results. Then I taught him to imagine wealth as natural to him. Within 6 months he signed his first $1 million contract. But here's the part that separates the dreamers from the achievers. You must persist in this assumption, even when your bank account tells a different story. And I'm about to tell you exactly how to do that. The key is to make your imagined wealth more real to you than your current circumstances. Your imagination must become so vivid, so natural, so familiar, that it feels more true than what your senses report. When you achieve this state, when your imagined wealth feels more real than your current poverty, the transformation is inevitable. Your subconscious mind will begin to externalize what it has accepted as true. The ultimate secret of wealth consciousness is this. You must live from your desire, not for your desire. Most people live for wealth. They work for it, hope for it, pray for it. But the truly wealthy live from wealth. They think from wealth, feel from wealth, act from wealth. This is what I mean by living in the end. You don't live in anticipation of becoming wealthy. You live from the assumption that you already are wealthy. When you truly live in the end, opportunities appear that were always there, but invisible to your previous state of consciousness. People begin treating you differently. Doors open, coincidences multiply. Why? Because you're no longer broadcasting the frequency of lack. You're transmitting abundance, and the world must respond accordingly. Living in the end means making decisions from your desired state, not your current circumstances. It means feeling grateful for wealth you haven't yet seen. It means carrying yourself with the dignity and confidence of someone who has already arrived. I once taught this principle to a struggling actor. Instead of auditioning from desperation, I told him to audition from the consciousness of already being a successful star. The very next audition, he booked a role that launched his career. Why? Because he was no longer trying to become successful. He was already successful in consciousness, and his external world conformed. Now I'm going to reveal the 3-step wealth formula that has never failed when properly applied. But I must warn you, this requires complete faith in your own creative power. Make a definite decision about the exact amount of wealth you desire, and by when you will have it. Not I hope or I would like, but I will have. Your decision must be firm, definite, and final. No wavering, no second guessing, no changing your mind based on circumstances. When you truly decide, you cut off all other possibilities and commit completely to your desired outcome. Step 2. Assume. From this moment forward, assume the consciousness of already possessing this wealth. Think from it, feel from it, act from it. This is not pretending. This is recognizing what is already true in a higher dimension of reality. Your assumption must be so complete that you forget you ever lacked wealth. It must become more natural to you than breathing. Step 3. Persist. Regardless of appearances, regardless of current circumstances, persist in this assumption until it hardens into fact. Persistence means maintaining your assumption despite contradictory evidence. It means feeling wealthy when the bills pile up. It means assuming abundance when others tell you to be realistic. It means never abandoning your vision, no matter what the world shows you. This is not positive thinking. This is applied consciousness. You're not trying to attract wealth. You're claiming your inheritance. But here's what most people don't understand about persistence. It's not about forcing or struggling. True persistence is effortless because it's based on knowing, not hoping. Let me explain. True persistence feels natural because you're not trying to make something happen. You're allowing what is already true to unfold. When you truly know you are wealthy, maintaining that consciousness requires no effort, just as it requires no effort to know your own name. Once you've impressed your subconscious with the reality of your wealth, it will create what I call the bridge of incidents, a series of events that will lead you naturally to your desired end. You might receive an unexpected opportunity. Someone might introduce you to the right person. An idea might come to you in the shower. A chance encounter might change everything. These aren't coincidences. They're the natural unfolding of your impressed subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is infinitely intelligent and infinitely creative. Once it accepts your assumption of wealth as true, it will find ways to externalize that assumption that your conscious mind could never have devised. I have seen the most remarkable bridges unfold. A woman assumed she was financially free, and within weeks she discovered a valuable painting in her attic that she inherited from a forgotten relative. A man felt himself to be prosperous, and his estranged brother contacted him about a business opportunity that made them both millionaires. The bridge might be simple or complex, obvious or mysterious, but it will always appear once your assumption is firm and your feeling is natural. But here's what most people don't realize. Your subconscious is already creating bridges, but they're bridges to more of what you currently believe about yourself. I'm about to show you how to redirect this creative power. If you believe you're unlucky, your subconscious creates incidents that prove you're unlucky. If you believe money is hard to come by, it creates incidents that make money scarce. If you believe you're not worthy of wealth, it creates incidents that confirm your unworthiness. But the moment you change your assumption, the bridge changes direction. Instead of leading you to more lack, it leads you to abundance. Instead of confirming your limitations, it proves your power. This is why consciousness is the only reality. Everything else is just the shadow cast by your inner world. The reason most people stay poor is not lack of opportunity, it's lack of identity. They identify as someone who struggles, someone who just gets by, someone who never quite makes it. Your identity is nothing more than your habitual way of thinking about yourself, and habits can be changed. Begin now to think of yourself as wealthy, not becoming wealthy, but as inherently, naturally, deservedly wealthy. This isn't arrogance. This is recognition of your true nature. When you truly embody wealth consciousness, you stop asking, how can I make money? And start asking, how can I best express my abundance? Your identity shapes everything. How you walk, how you talk, what opportunities you notice, what relationships you attract, what decisions you make. Change your identity, and you change your entire life. I knew a man who worked as a janitor, but identified himself as a businessman. He carried himself with dignity, spoke with confidence, and made decisions from prosperity consciousness. Within 2 years, he owned a cleaning company that employed dozens of people. His external circumstances followed his internal identity. And here's the secret that will accelerate your wealth beyond anything you've ever imagined. There's a specific identity that attracts money like a magnet. The identity that attracts wealth is this: I am the source of my supply, not your job, not your investments, not other people. You are the source. When you truly know this, opportunities flow to you from all directions because you're not depending on any single channel. There is a consciousness that magnetizes money, a specific way of being that attracts financial opportunities like iron filings to a magnet. This consciousness has nothing to do with greed or materialism. It's based on understanding your true relationship to abundance. When you realize that you are consciousness itself, and that consciousness is the substance from which all things are made, you understand that you are the creator of your wealth, not the victim of circumstances. This consciousness carries itself differently. It speaks differently. It thinks differently. It doesn't chase money because it knows money chases it. People with magnetic money consciousness don't work harder. They work from a different level of being. They don't struggle for opportunities. Opportunities seek them out. They don't compete for resources. Resources flow to them naturally. I have observed this consciousness in the wealthiest individuals I've known. They possess an unshakable knowing that abundance is their natural state. They never doubt their worthiness. They never question their ability to create wealth. And now I'm going to give you the exact technique to develop this magnetic consciousness. But be warned, once you truly embody this, your entire life will reorganize itself around abundance. The technique is simple but profound. For the next 30 days, assume that everything you touch turns to gold. Not literally, but energetically. Assume that every conversation leads to an opportunity. Assume that every person you meet is a potential blessing. Assume that every situation contains the seeds of prosperity. This assumption will gradually become your natural state. And when it does, you will become a magnet for wealth in all its forms. Most people try to climb the ladder of success rung by rung. But there's another way. The quantum leap. This is when you bypass the normal progression and jump directly to your desired level of wealth through consciousness alone. Quantum leaps happen when your consciousness undergoes a complete transformation. You don't gradually become wealthy. You suddenly realize you always were wealthy, and your external world scrambles to catch up. I have witnessed these quantum leaps many times. A person spends years struggling, then suddenly their consciousness shifts, and within months their financial situation completely transforms, not through gradual improvement, but through sudden dramatic change. The key to the quantum leap is complete acceptance of your new identity. You must abandon your old self so completely that going back becomes impossible. You must burn the bridges to your former consciousness. This requires courage, because you must let go of everything familiar, your excuses, your limitations, your victim stories, your struggle identity. You must be willing to become someone entirely new. And here's something that will shock you. Most people unconsciously resist the very wealth they consciously desire. They sabotage their own success through hidden beliefs they don't even know they carry. Deep down, many people believe that wealth will corrupt them, isolate them, or make them bad people. They've been conditioned to believe that money is the root of evil, that rich people are greedy, that spiritual people shouldn't care about material things. These unconscious beliefs create massive resistance to abundance. Even when opportunities appear, they find ways to reject them or sabotage them. I once worked with a man who desperately wanted wealth, but unconsciously feared it would change him for the worse. Every time he started to succeed, he would make self-destructive decisions that brought him back to struggle. Only when he resolved his hidden resistance did his wealth begin to flow freely. The solution is to examine your deepest beliefs about money and wealthy people. What did your parents teach you about wealth? What does your religion say about money? What judgments do you carry about the wealthy? Until you resolve these hidden conflicts, your conscious desires will battle your unconscious resistance, and resistance always wins. But there's one belief about wealth that's more destructive than all others combined. And if you carry this belief, No amount of effort will ever make you truly wealthy. The most destructive belief is this: I don't deserve wealth. This belief is so devastating because it's often hidden beneath layers of justification and rationalization. People think they want wealth, but deep down, they believe they're not worthy of it. This unworthiness might stem from childhood experiences, religious conditioning, or social programming. But regardless of its source, it must be rooted out and replaced with the truth. You deserve abundance because you are life itself expressing in human form. Every wealthy person I've known has certain rituals, not superstitions, but consciousness practices that maintain their abundance mindset. These rituals keep them aligned with wealth consciousness, even when external circumstances fluctuate. Some visualize their wealth every morning upon waking. Others practice gratitude for abundance they haven't yet seen. Many make decisions throughout the day from their desired state rather than their current circumstances. The key is consistency. These aren't occasional practices, but daily rituals that maintain their wealth consciousness as naturally as breathing. I recommend developing your own wealth rituals. Perhaps you start each day by feeling grateful for your abundance. Maybe you end each day by visualizing your financial goals as already achieved. Or you might practice making decisions from wealth consciousness throughout the day. The specific ritual matters less than the consistency and feeling behind it. These practices gradually transform your habitual way of being until wealth consciousness becomes your natural state. Now I'm going to reveal the most powerful wealth ritual I have ever discovered. It requires only 10 minutes each day. But those 10 minutes must be given with complete devotion and unwavering focus. Every evening before sleep, sit quietly and enter into the feeling of being wealthy. Not thinking about wealth, not visualizing wealth, but actually feeling yourself to be wealthy right now. Feel the security, the freedom, the power, the peace that comes with true abundance. Let this feeling fill every cell of your being. Make it so real that your current circumstances fade into insignificance. Then, from this feeling of wealth, give thanks. Thank God, the universe, your higher self, whatever resonates with you, for your abundance. Feel genuine gratitude for wealth that exists in your consciousness, even if not yet in your bank account. End by making this declaration: I am grateful for my wealth. I am worthy of my abundance. I am the source of my supply. It is done. Then release it completely. Don't think about it. Don't worry about how it will come. Don't check for results. Simply trust that consciousness creates reality, and what you have accepted in consciousness must externalize in your world. This ritual must be performed with the faith of a child and the persistence of a saint. Miss no days. Doubt not the outcome. Know that you are impressing your subconscious mind with the reality of wealth, and that this impression must externalize as surely as seeds must sprout. And here's what separates those who succeed with this ritual from those who fail. The secret ingredient that transforms this ritual from mere technique to miracle-working power is love. You must love the feeling of wealth. You must love abundance itself. You must love the version of yourself that is wealthy. Most people approach wealth manifestation with desperation, need, or fear. But these emotions repel abundance. Wealth is attracted only to love. Love of prosperity. Love of abundance. Love of the wealthy self you're becoming. When you truly love wealth consciousness, when you find joy in feeling abundant, when you delight in imagining your prosperous life, then the ritual becomes not work, but pleasure. And what you do with love and joy comes to you effortlessly. Love dissolves all resistance. Love eliminates all doubt. Love makes the impossible inevitable. Fall in love with your wealthy self. Fall in love with abundance. Fall in love with the feeling of prosperity. When you do, wealth will fall in love with you. My friends, I leave you with this ultimate truth. You are not poor waiting to become rich. You are rich pretending to be poor. Wealth is not something you achieve. It's something you remember. It's not a destination. It's your point of departure. The money you desire already exists. The opportunities already exist. The abundance already exists. What's missing is your recognition of these facts. Stop trying to get rich and start remembering that you are rich. Not in some future moment, but right now in your consciousness. And here's the final secret, the one that changes everything. The moment you stop needing wealth to feel complete, wealth flows to you effortlessly. The moment you stop chasing abundance, abundance chases you. The moment you realize you are already whole, your world reorganizes itself to reflect your wholeness. This is the great paradox of manifestation. You must already be what you desire to be in order to have what you desire to have. You are consciousness itself, temporarily focused through human form. You are the operant power of creation, the very force that speaks worlds into existence. You are not a beggar at the feast of life. You are the host. The question isn't whether this works. It's whether you'll have the courage to apply it. Because once you truly understand that consciousness is the only reality, you can never again blame your circumstances for your financial condition. The choice is yours. Continue living the lie of limitation, or awaken to the truth of your infinite abundance. Remember, assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. Your wealthy life is waiting for you to claim it. The only question is, when will you stop postponing your own greatness? The time is now. The power is yours. The choice is always yours. I am wealthy. I am abundant. I am prosperous. It is done.
I want to talk to you about something that's been on my mind lately. Something I've experienced myself, and I bet you have too. Have you ever noticed how you wake up each morning with the same thoughts cycling through your mind? The same worries, the same doubts, the same quiet resignation that whispers, "This is just how things are." I have. For years I carried the weight of who I thought I needed to be. Not a physical weight, though sometimes it felt that way, but the invisible burden of an identity I had outgrown. This morning burden isn't random. It's your old self, still running the show. I remember a time when I'd wake up and before my eyes even opened, my mind would already be replaying yesterday's disappointments or anticipating today's potential failures. It was exhausting, like living the same day on repeat, hoping for different results. Einstein called that insanity, and he wasn't wrong. What I didn't understand then was that this wasn't just negative thinking. It was a biochemical addiction. My body had become accustomed to certain emotional states, worry, inadequacy, fear, and was unconsciously seeking those familiar signals each morning, like an old radio automatically tuning to its preset station. Let me ask you something personal. What emotions color your typical day? Is it anxiety that tightens your chest before your feet even hit the floor? Is it that familiar disappointment when things don't work out again? Or perhaps it's that subtle, constant feeling that you're just not quite enough. These emotions aren't just passing weather, they're your emotional home address, the place you keep returning to day after day. And here's the truth that changed everything for me. Your old self is not just a memory, it's a magnetic field. Everything you're experiencing right now is being attracted by the energy you're consistently broadcasting. Think about it. Your body doesn't know the difference between what's happening now and what you're vividly remembering or imagining. Your nervous system, your hormones, your entire biochemistry responds to the emotions you repeatedly feel. By age 35, nearly 95% of who you are has become automatic memorized behaviors, emotional reactions, and unconscious habits. Not because you chose them deliberately, but because you practiced them until they became your default. I once heard someone say, "Your personality creates your personal reality." I didn't fully grasp what that meant until I realized that my personality, the collection of thoughts, emotions, and behaviors I identified with, was literally shaping what I was experiencing in my life. I wasn't just thinking about limitations, I was embodying them. I wasn't just worrying about rejection, I was unconsciously creating situations where I'd feel rejected. This was my prison, and I had unknowingly built it myself, brick by emotional brick. The walls weren't physical, but they were just as confining, perhaps more so because I couldn't see them. I only felt their effect. The chronic dissatisfaction, the recurring patterns, the sense that something better was always just out of reach. What's fascinating is that science is now confirming what ancient wisdom traditions have taught for millennia. Your internal state creates your external reality. When you experience an emotion, your brain releases specific neurochemicals. Feel fear, and your body floods with cortisol and adrenaline. Feel love, and you're awash in oxytocin and dopamine. These chemicals aren't just fleeting sensations, they're instructions to your cells, telling them how to function, what genes to express, what reality to prepare for. Live in chronic stress, and your body physically reshapes itself to handle a threatening world. Live in gratitude and trust, and your body optimizes for growth, healing, and connection. I spent years trying to change my circumstances while maintaining the same internal chemistry. It was like trying to drive to a new destination while traveling on the same old road. No matter how fast I drove or how determined I was, I always ended up in familiar territory. What I didn't understand was that transformation isn't about trying harder within the same state of being. It's about shifting states entirely. Imagine yourself as a tuning fork, constantly vibrating at a specific frequency. The universe, or the quantum field, if you prefer, isn't responding to your wishes or your vision board. It's responding to your vibration. I remember when this hit me. I kept saying I wanted freedom, opportunity, and abundance, but I was vibrating fear, scarcity, and not enoughness. My words were saying one thing, but my energy was broadcasting something completely different. And guess which one the universe was listening to? Here's what I had to confront, and maybe you do too. You can't step into a new life while being energetically loyal to your past. This isn't about positive thinking or affirmations. Those are like trying to paint a crumbling wall. The paint might look nice for a moment, but the foundation is still compromised. There was a period in my life when I was religiously practicing affirmations. Every morning I'd look in the mirror and repeat, I am abundant, I am worthy, I am successful. But throughout the day, I'd feel the exact opposite. My bank account was dwindling, my relationships were strained, and my sense of worth was tied to external validation that rarely came. I was trying to override decades of programming with a few minutes of recited phrases. It was like trying to redirect a river with a teaspoon. What I eventually realized is that transformation requires more than surface changes. It demands a complete rewiring of your operating system, from your conscious thoughts down to your subconscious beliefs, from your mental patterns to your cellular memory. But here's where it gets interesting, and where I found my first real breakthrough. In quantum physics, there's something called the observer effect. It means that the act of observing changes what's being observed. When you become conscious of a pattern in yourself, you're no longer completely identified with it. The first time I truly saw my old self, not judged it, just saw it clearly, something shifted. I wasn't just running on autopilot anymore. There was space between me and the pattern. I had become the observer, and that tiny space, that's where freedom begins. I remember the exact moment this happened for me. I was in the middle of an argument with someone I loved, feeling that familiar surge of defensiveness and the need to prove myself right. But suddenly there was this strange moment of clarity, like I had stepped outside myself and could see the pattern playing out. Oh, I thought, there's that old reaction again, the one where I feel threatened and need to win. Just that recognition, that moment of witnessing, changed everything. The pattern didn't immediately disappear, but it lost some of its power over me. I wasn't completely identified with it anymore. There was a me that could see beyond the pattern, that could choose differently. This is what meditation teachers mean when they talk about mindfulness, that capacity to witness your own processes without being swept away by them. It's not about forcing change through willpower. It's about creating enough inner space to allow change to happen naturally. One of the most liberating discoveries of my journey was understanding the difference between having emotions and being emotions. For most of my life, I didn't say, I feel angry. I said, I am angry. I didn't experience, I feel anxious. I became anxiety itself. This complete identification with emotional states meant I had no separation from them, no freedom to choose a different response. When you identify totally with an emotion or a pattern, you hand over your power. You become a passenger in your own life, driven by unconscious programming rather than conscious choice. Learning to create that space, to say, I notice I'm feeling anxious, rather than I am anxious, was revolutionary. It meant that emotions could move through me without defining me. Patterns could arise without controlling me. This isn't about suppressing feelings or denying reality. It's about recognizing that you are the sky, not the weather. Emotions, thoughts, sensations, they all move through your awareness like clouds, sometimes stormy, sometimes light, but the awareness itself, that's the real you. And it remains unchanged, spacious, and free regardless of what's passing through. I spent years trying to change my external world without changing myself first. I was trying to access a reality that belonged to a version of me I hadn't become yet. Here's what I finally understood. You don't attract what you want. You attract who you are. The future you, the one living the life you desire, doesn't just think differently. They are different. They feel different. They respond to challenges differently. They make decisions from a completely different place. Your task isn't to chase that future self. It's to collapse the distance by becoming vibrationally compatible with them right now. This was perhaps the most profound turning point in my journey. Instead of asking, how do I get what I want? I began asking, who do I need to become to naturally attract what I want? The shift is subtle but revolutionary. It moves the focal point from external acquisition to internal transformation, from getting to being, from chasing to attracting. What if I told you that the future version of yourself, the one living the life you dream about, already exists? Not in some distant hypothetical future, but right now in this moment, as a vibration, a frequency you can tune into. Quantum physics suggests something remarkable. Reality isn't linear. Time isn't fixed. What we experience as our present is simply the reality we've collapsed from infinite possibilities based on our dominant frequency. This means the version of you who is thriving, fulfilled, and living your dream life exists now, just at a different frequency than the one you're currently tuned to. And the only thing separating you from that version of yourself is your vibration. I know this might sound abstract or even mystical, but the principles are grounded in the strange and beautiful realities of quantum science. In the quantum field, particles exist in a state of pure potential, what physicists call superposition, until they're observed. The act of observation causes the particle to choose a definite state from all possibilities. In a similar way, your consciousness is constantly collapsing specific realities from the field of infinite potential. And what determines which reality you collapse? Your vibrational state, the sum total of your beliefs, emotions, thoughts, and expectations. Think about it this way. Right now, there are infinite versions of you existing across what physicists call the multiverse. There's the you who's struggling financially, the you who's wildly abundant, the you who's deeply in love, the you who's perpetually lonely. All of these versions exist simultaneously as potential reality. The one you're experiencing right now is simply the one that matches your current vibrational signature. I used to think this was just an interesting metaphysical concept until I began to experience it firsthand. As I shifted my internal state, releasing old identities and embodying new ones, reality began to reorganize itself around me in ways I couldn't have engineered through external effort alone. Opportunities that aligned with my new frequency began to appear. People responded to me differently. Situations that had been stuck for years suddenly found resolution. It wasn't magic, it was mathematics. The law of resonance playing out with perfect precision. Coherence is a scientific term that describes a system whose parts are aligned and working in harmony. When your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and actions are all in alignment, you achieve a state of personal coherence. And that's when the magic happens. I noticed that in my own life, whenever I experienced frustration or stagnation, there was always an incoherence somewhere in my system. I'd say I wanted financial abundance, but I'd feel guilty about charging for my services. I'd claim I wanted deep connection, but I'd keep people at arm's length out of fear of being hurt. These contradictions created a mixed signal, a fractured frequency that couldn't clearly attract anything. Learning to create coherence, to align my conscious desires with my subconscious beliefs, my words with my feelings, my actions with my intentions, was like turning a crackling radio broadcast into a crystal clear signal. Suddenly, life could hear me. Reality could respond cleanly. This doesn't mean having no negative emotions or doubts. It means bringing awareness to the contradictions and lovingly working to resolve them. It means becoming a unified field rather than a conflicted one. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine walking into a room and seeing the version of you who already lives the life you desire. Notice how they carry themselves. The ease in their shoulders, the clarity in their eyes. They don't doubt their worth or question their path. They're not weighed down by past hurts or future fears. Now ask them, what did you let go of to become this free? Because, and this was a revelation for me, the new self isn't created by adding more. It's revealed by subtracting, by releasing the layers of conditioning, pain, and limiting beliefs until all that's left is your essence. You're not becoming something new. You're remembering who you've always been beneath the noise. I tried this exercise during a particularly dark period in my life. Everything seemed to be falling apart. My relationship had ended. A business venture had failed. My health was suffering. I felt completely lost. In my visualization, the future self I encountered wasn't what I expected. I thought I'd see some superhuman version of me, ultra confident, perfectly polished, with all the answers. Instead, I met someone who looked a lot like me, but with a profound sense of peace. The main difference wasn't in their achievements or possessions, it was in what they'd released. They'd let go of the need to control outcomes. They'd released the belief that worth is tied to achievement. They'd surrendered the pattern of self-judgment that had driven me for decades. What struck me most was how ordinary yet extraordinary this future self seemed. They weren't trying to be special, they were simply being authentic, and that authenticity was magnetic. Your identity, the collection of beliefs, memories, patterns, and stories that you call me, can be your greatest asset or your heaviest burden. Most people don't realize how much energy it takes to maintain an identity, especially one that's built on limitation or past pain. It's like carrying a heavy backpack everywhere you go. You're so used to the weight that you don't even notice it anymore, until someone points out that you could put it down. I remember the strange mix of fear and excitement I felt when I first considered releasing parts of my identity. On one hand, these patterns were familiar. They made me feel safe in their predictability. They were home, even if home wasn't particularly comfortable. On the other hand, I sensed the incredible freedom that would come from putting down that weight, the energy that would be released, the possibilities that would open up. What I discovered is that you don't have to destroy your old identity. You don't have to reject or shame who you've been. You simply need to recognize that you are not your patterns. You are the awareness in which patterns arise, and that awareness can choose differently at any moment. So how do we make this shift? Not through information, but through embodiment. Not through thinking, but through becoming. I'm going to guide you through what I call a quantum identity reset, a process to release the old self and step into the new. Number 1, name your old self. You can't release what you don't recognize. What would you call the version of you that's been running on autopilot? The pleaser, the perfectionist, the invisible one. Give it a name that resonates. For me, it was the survivor, the part of me always braced for the next disaster, never fully trusting that life could be easy. Take a moment to reflect on the core beliefs that drive this identity. What does this version of you deeply believe about yourself, others, and the world? What emotions does it most frequently experience? What situations or triggers activate it most strongly? Understanding these patterns isn't about judgment. It's about clarity. The more clearly you can see the contours of your old self, the less power it has over you. Number 2, honor and release. This part is crucial. Your old self isn't your enemy. It was trying to protect you. It helped you survive when survival was the goal. Thank it for its service. Then visualize yourself gently setting down that heavy backpack of outdated patterns and beliefs. You don't need to destroy it. Just put it down and walk away. I remember the profound sense of lightness the first time I did this. Like I could finally stand tall after years of carrying an invisible weight. This honoring is essential because resistance creates persistence. If you try to reject or fight your old self, you actually energize it. What you resist persists. What you embrace can be released. So speak to this identity with compassion. Recognize that it formed for a reason, to help you navigate challenges, to protect you from perceived threats, to make sense of confusing experiences. It did the best it could with the awareness available at the time. But now you have greater awareness. You can see beyond those old strategies. You can choose differently. Number 3, embody your new self. Now step into the energy of who you're becoming. How does this version of you stand? Breathe, speak, make decisions. For me, my new self had a quiet confidence I'd rarely felt before. His shoulders were relaxed. His breath was deep. His voice was clear. He didn't need approval or permission. This embodiment isn't pretending or fake it till you make it. It's recognizing that the future self already exists within you as potential, and you're simply aligning with that potential in the present moment. I found it helpful to identify specific situations where my old self would typically take over. A challenging conversation, a financial decision, a social gathering, and imagine how my new self would navigate these scenarios. Not from fear or habit, but from centered presence and trust. The body is the subconscious mind made visible. By changing your physiology, how you stand, breathe, move, speak, you send powerful signals to your nervous system that a shift is occurring. This isn't superficial, it's neurobiological. Number 4, declare your new reality. Words have power, especially when they're charged with embodied emotion. Speak this declaration aloud. I no longer collapse the past. I tune into who I truly am. Say it again, not as empty words, but as a vibrational statement. I no longer collapse the past. I tune into who I truly am. Let those words resonate in every cell of your body. Feel them changing your frequency. Declarations work because language isn't just descriptive, it's creative. Your words don't just describe reality, they help shape it. This is particularly true when those words are accompanied by genuine emotion and conviction. When I first started working with declarations, I made the mistake of reciting them mechanically, without feeling. It was like reading a grocery list. Unsurprisingly, nothing changed. The breakthrough came when I began to feel the declaration as already true. I didn't say I will be confident while feeling insecure. I found the seed of confidence already present in me, amplified it, and declared from that place, I am confident. The declaration then becomes both an affirmation of what's already emerging and a catalyst for further embodiment. Number 5, daily practice. This isn't a one-time event, it's a practice. Each morning, before checking your phone or starting your day, ask yourself, which version of me will collapse reality today? Then choose consciously, lovingly, powerfully. Consistency is key here. Neural pathways strengthen with repetition. New identities form through consistent reinforcement. The question isn't whether transformation is possible. It absolutely is, thanks to neuroplasticity, but whether you're willing to practice the new state of being with enough consistency to create lasting change. I found that creating specific anchors in my day was helpful, moments when I would consciously check in and realign with my new self. These might be transitions, like moving from home to work, or sensory cues, like the sound of a bell or the feeling of water on my skin during a shower. Each of these moments became an opportunity to ask, am I operating from my old self or my new self right now? And if it's the old self, can I shift? Over time, these conscious choices become more natural. What once required deliberate effort eventually becomes your new baseline. As you practice this reset, you'll likely encounter resistance. This is normal. In fact, it's a sign that real change is occurring. The old self doesn't relinquish control easily. It's been in charge for years, perhaps decades. When you begin to shift into a new identity, the old self often fights back with familiar weapons: doubt, fear, criticism, procrastination. You might hear internal voices saying things like, this won't work. Who do you think you are? This is selfish. What if you fail? It's safer to stay as you are. Recognize these voices for what they are: the death throes of an outdated identity. They're not truth, they're resistance. I found that the most effective response to resistance isn't to fight it, which only creates more resistance, but to witness it with compassion. Ah, there's that old fear again. I see you. I understand why you're here, but I'm choosing differently now. This witnessing diffuses the power of resistance without energizing it through struggle. When I first embraced this practice, the shifts were subtle at first. An unexpected opportunity, a conversation that opened doors I didn't know existed, a sudden clarity about decisions that had confused me for months. But over time, as I consistently chose to vibrate at the frequency of my future self, reality began to rearrange itself around me. Not because I was forcing it, but because I was in resonance with a different timeline. And here's what I've learned. When you change your vibration, your life cannot stay the same. It's not magic, it's mathematics. It's the law of resonance playing out in your daily experience. One of the most striking examples in my own life came after months of practicing this reset. I had been struggling financially for years, constantly worried about money and caught in a scarcity mindset. As I shifted into a state of abundance, not by pretending I had more money, but by genuinely feeling grateful for what I had and confident in my ability to create value, opportunities began to appear that had been invisible to me before. A project I'd been trying to launch for months suddenly gained traction. People began approaching me with collaborations that aligned perfectly with my strengths. Resources that I needed seemed to appear at exactly the right moment. None of this happened because I was manifesting in the conventional sense. It happened because I had shifted my frequency to one that was compatible with these experiences. I had become the person who could recognize and receive these opportunities rather than unconsciously repelling them through fear and doubt. As you align with your new self, you'll likely begin to notice an increase in synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that feel guided or orchestrated. Someone mentions a book, and the next day it falls off a shelf in front of you. You think of a solution to a problem, and hours later, a friend calls with exactly the resources you need. You feel drawn to a particular location only to have a life-changing encounter there. These aren't random coincidences. They're signs that you're in the flow, aligned with a coherent field of possibilities that matches your new frequency. I used to dismiss synchronicities as mere confirmation bias, the tendency to notice things that confirm what we already believe. But as they became more frequent and undeniable in my own life, I began to see them differently. As feedback from the field, cosmic winks letting me know I was on track. These moments of grace aren't rewards for good behavior. They're natural outgrowths of alignment. When you're vibrating coherently, life responds coherently. When you're fragmented within, reality appears fragmented without. Your shift doesn't just change your personal reality. It sends ripples through the collective field. As you release your old patterns and step into your authentic power, you create permission for others to do the same. We're not separate beings having isolated experiences. We're interconnected nodes in a vast, conscious field. Your liberation contributes to the liberation of all. I noticed this in my own circles. As I began to embody more authenticity and sovereignty, the people around me started changing too. Some moved away, no longer resonant with my new frequency. Others drew closer, inspired by the transformation they witnessed, and many began their own parallel journeys of awakening. Not because I was actively trying to change them, but because transformation is contagious. This ripple effect gives deeper meaning to personal growth. It's not just about improving your individual experience. It's about contributing to the evolution of consciousness itself. Your shift creates a crack in the collective matrix, allowing light to enter not just your reality, but the shared reality we all inhabit. At its core, this journey requires courage. The courage to let go of the familiar, even when it's uncomfortable. The courage to step into the unknown. The courage to be who you truly are in a world that may not yet recognize or validate that truth. I've come to believe that this might be the most fundamental choice we face in life. Will we continue to be who we think we should be, governed by conditioning and fear? Or will we have the courage to be who we truly are, aligned with our soul's deepest knowing? The old self was built on adaptation, becoming whoever you needed to be to survive, to be accepted. The new self emerges from authenticity, the willingness to be real, raw, true, even when it's uncomfortable or inconvenient. This authenticity isn't self-indulgence, it's sovereignty. It's the recognition that you are the authority on your own experience. You are the author of your story. You are the creator of your reality. So I ask you now, are you ready to release the version of you that no longer matches your future? Are you willing to let go of the identity that was built for survival so you can step into one that's designed for thriving? If something inside you is resonating with these words, if you can feel a quickening, a recognition, a yes, then it's time. Time to put down the heavy backpack. Time to tune into a new frequency. Time to collapse a new reality. The old you has served its purpose. The new you is already waiting, ready to emerge. The question is, are you ready?
Good evening, my dear friends. Tonight I want to talk to you about something that stops more people from manifesting than anything else. It's not lack of desire. It's not lack of understanding. It's not even lack of technique. It's the inability to feel safe in the unknown. Most people need to see the path before they'll walk it. They need to know how before they'll claim the end. They need certainty before they'll have faith. And because they demand certainty in the invisible, they never manifest the visible. Because here's the truth, they don't want to hear. The entire journey from assumption to manifestation takes place in the unknown. You don't know when it will happen. You don't know how it will happen. You don't know through what means it will arrive. You're standing in your assumption, claiming your desire is already yours, while the three-dimensional world shows you nothing. No evidence, no proof, no sign that anything is changing. This is the unknown, and you must learn to feel safe here. Not comfortable, not necessarily confident, but safe, secure, at peace, because faith is not knowing everything will work out. Faith is feeling safe even when you don't know. And tonight, I'm going to teach you how to develop that faith, how to rest in the unknown, how to be at peace in the gap between assumption and manifestation. Because this ability to feel safe in the unknown is what separates those who manifest from those who give up right before their breakthrough. Let me start by explaining why the unknown is unavoidable. When you make an assumption, when you claim something as yours in consciousness, you're creating something that doesn't yet exist in the three-dimensional world. By definition, you're stepping into the unknown. You don't have a roadmap for how your desire will materialize, because the path hasn't been created yet. Consciousness will create the path, but only after you've committed to the destination. The bridge of incidents that will lead you from here to there doesn't exist until you assume the end. So you must assume the end first. You must claim your desire without seeing the way. You must stand in the unknown and trust that the path will appear. This terrifies most people. They want to see step 1 before they'll take it. They want to know step 2 before they'll commit to step 1. They want the entire journey mapped out before they'll begin. But consciousness doesn't work that way. Consciousness creates from the end backward, not from the beginning forward. You assume the end, you dwell in it. You persist in it. And consciousness creates whatever path is necessary to bring you to that end. But during the interval between assumption and manifestation, you're in the unknown. You don't know the when. You don't know the how. You don't know the means. And you must learn to feel safe anyway. From childhood, you've been conditioned to fear the unknown. Don't go there. It's not safe. Stay where you can see. Don't take risks. Be careful. Play it safe. You learn that safety comes from knowing, from certainty, from being able to see and predict and control. And now when you try to manifest something, this conditioning kicks in. Your mind says, I can't see how this will happen. I don't know if it will work. I can't guarantee this. Therefore, it's not safe. Abort. Return to what I know. And so you abandon your assumption. You give up on your desire. You return to the familiar even if the familiar is painful, because at least it's known. But the unknown is not your enemy. It's your creative space. And when you learn to feel safe there, when you can rest in not knowing, you unlock your full manifesting power. Now let me tell you what faith really is, because most people have it backwards. Faith is not believing something will happen. Faith is not positive thinking or optimism or hope. Faith is the feeling of safety in the absence of evidence. It's being able to stand in your assumption, knowing you don't know how or when or through what means it will manifest, and feeling peaceful anyway. It's claiming your desire while the bank account is empty and feeling financially secure. It's assuming love while you're alone and feeling cherished. It's occupying the state of success while circumstances show failure and feeling calm. Faith is the inner knowing that you're safe even when the outer world shows you nothing. This is not denial. You're not pretending you can see the path. You're not acting like you have certainty when you don't. You're simply feeling safe in your assumption, trusting that consciousness is creating the path, even though you can't see it yet. Think about it. If you could see exactly how your desire would manifest, you wouldn't need faith. You'd just follow the visible steps. Faith is only required when you can't see, when you don't know, when you're in the unknown. And the depth of your faith is measured by how safe you feel in that unknown. Here's how you know if you have true faith. When someone asks, how is this going to happen? And you can honestly say, I don't know, and I'm at peace with not knowing. When circumstances contradict your assumption and you feel calm rather than panicked. When days, weeks, or months pass with no visible movement and you're still resting in your desired state rather than anxiously checking for signs. When you can go to sleep at night without knowing when or how your desire will manifest and sleep peacefully anyway. This is faith. This is feeling safe in the unknown. Most people fail this test. The moment they don't know how, they panic. The moment they can't see the path, they abandon the journey. The moment uncertainty appears, they retreat to the known. But you're not most people. You're learning to be someone who can stand in the assumption, dwell in the unknown, and feel completely safe. So how do you develop this faith? How do you learn to feel safe when you don't know? First, understand that not knowing is part of the process, not a problem with the process. The unknown is not a sign that something's wrong. It's not evidence that your manifestation isn't working. It's not proof that you're doing it incorrectly. The unknown is the necessary space between assumption and manifestation. When you plant a seed, you don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You don't panic because you can't see roots forming underground. You trust the process. You know the seed is doing its work in the invisible. Your assumption is the same. It's working in the invisible. It's creating the path in the unknown. You just can't see it yet. And that's okay. That's normal. That's how it works. When you accept this, when you stop treating the unknown as a problem, you immediately feel safer in it. Second, recognize that consciousness knows the way even when you don't. Your conscious mind doesn't need to know how your desire will manifest. That's not its job. Your conscious mind's job is to assume the end and persist in that assumption. Consciousness, your deeper divine intelligence, will create the path. It knows connections you don't know. It sees opportunities you can't see. It can arrange circumstances in ways your limited mind could never predict. You don't need to know how, because consciousness knows how. Your job is to trust that intelligence, to assume the end and let consciousness handle the means. When you remember that you're not responsible for figuring out the how, you feel safer not knowing. Third, focus on the feeling of the end, not the path to the end. When you don't know how your desire will manifest, your mind wants to figure it out. It wants to plan, strategize, control. But this keeps you focused on the unknown path, which creates anxiety. Instead, shift your focus to the known end, the assumption you're occupying. You may not know how you'll be wealthy, but you know what wealth feels like. Feel that. You may not know when love will come, but you know what being loved feels like. Feel that. You may not know through what means success will arrive, but you know what success feels like. Feel that. The feeling of the end is the known within the unknown. When you anchor yourself in that feeling, you feel safe even though the path is invisible. Fourth, practice resting in uncertainty. This is a skill like any other. And like any skill, it improves with practice. Throughout your day, notice when you feel the need to know, to control, to see the path. And instead of indulging that need, practice resting in uncertainty. I don't know how this will work out, and I'm okay with that. I can't see the next step, and I'm at peace anyway. I don't have evidence yet, and I still feel safe in my assumption. Each time you practice this, you strengthen your ability to feel safe in the unknown. And as this ability grows, your manifesting power increases, because you can hold your assumption longer. You can persist through longer intervals. You can remain faithful, even when nothing visible is happening. There's a phrase in scripture, the peace that passes understanding. This is exactly what I'm teaching you. It's a peace that doesn't make logical sense. A peace that exists even when your mind doesn't understand how things will work out. A peace that surpasses your need to know. This is the peace of faith. The peace of feeling safe in the unknown. When you have this peace, people will ask you, aren't you worried? Don't you need to know how this will happen? And you'll genuinely be able to say, no, I'm at peace. I don't know how, but I know it's done. They won't understand, because they're still trying to find safety in knowing, in certainty, in visible evidence. But you found something deeper. Safety in your assumption itself. Safety in consciousness. Safety in the invisible made real. This is faith, and it's the most powerful state you can occupy. Let me address the specific challenge of the gap. That period of time between when you assume something and when it manifests physically. This gap is where most people lose faith, because they're standing in the unknown, and they don't feel safe. Days pass, weeks pass, sometimes months, and nothing visible changes. Their mind screams, see, it's not working. You were wrong. Give up. Go back to what you know. But here's what's actually happening in that gap. Consciousness is rearranging circumstances, creating connections, preparing events, building the bridge of incidents that will lead to your manifestation. All of this is happening in the invisible, in the unknown, where you can't see it. The gap is not empty. The gap is not inactive. The gap is full of creative activity that you simply can't perceive yet. Think of a woman who's pregnant but doesn't know it yet. For weeks, massive changes are happening in her body. Cells dividing, organs forming, an entire human being created. But she can't see any of it. There's no visible evidence. But something profound is happening in the invisible. Your manifestation is the same. During the gap, your assumption is gestating. Consciousness is creating. The bridge is being built. You just can't see it yet. And you must feel safe anyway. You must rest in the knowing that the gap is not emptiness. It's creative pregnancy. Something is growing. Something is coming. Something is being formed in the invisible that will soon be visible. When you can feel safe in this gap, you have mastered faith. Tonight I want you to practice feeling safe in the unknown. Choose your most important desire, the one you're assuming is already yours, and then acknowledge, I don't know when this will manifest. I don't know how it will happen. I don't know through what means it will arrive. Say it out loud. Admit the unknown. And then instead of letting that create anxiety, let it create peace. I don't know and I'm safe anyway. I don't know and I trust consciousness. I don't know and I'm at peace. Feel that safety. Feel that peace. Feel that trust. This is faith. This is what you're cultivating. Before you sleep tonight, rest in your assumption while simultaneously resting in not knowing the details. I am wealthy and I don't know how the money will come. I am loved and I don't know when they'll appear. I am successful and I don't know what path will lead there. And feel safe in both statements at the same time. The assumption is your truth. The unknown is your creative space. And you are safe in both. Let me end with this promise. When you learn to feel safe in the unknown, when you can rest in your assumption without needing to see the path, you become unstoppable, because you're no longer dependent on visible evidence. You're no longer shaken by delays. You're no longer derailed by uncertainty. You found a deeper security, the security of knowing that consciousness creates reality, and your assumption is already creating the path, even though you can't see it yet. This is true faith. This is real power. This is how you manifest anything. Not by knowing everything, but by feeling safe, while knowing nothing except your assumption. The unknown is not your enemy. It's the womb of creation. It's where miracles are born. It's where consciousness does its most powerful work. Learn to feel safe there. Learn to rest there. Learn to trust there. And watch as the unknown becomes the known, as the invisible becomes visible, as your assumption hardens into undeniable fact. You are safe in the unknown. You always have been. Thank you, and good evening. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures, and I will see you in the next video.
Stop everything you're doing right now. What I'm about to reveal has been deliberately hidden from 99% of the population for centuries. There's a reason why certain families have maintained wealth for generations, while others work themselves to exhaustion and never break free from financial struggle. And here's what will shock you most. It has absolutely nothing to do with education, connections, or even hard work. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share 8 spiritual laws that govern money flow. Laws so powerful that when you understand just one of them, your financial reality will begin shifting immediately. But here's your first warning. This information challenges everything you've been taught about money, and not everyone is ready to hear it. You found this message at the exact moment when your consciousness is ready to receive this ancient secret. The universe has orchestrated this divine appointment because you're prepared to understand why money flows effortlessly to some while seeming to avoid others completely. Today you join the ranks of those who comprehend the true nature of abundance and become a conduit through which prosperity naturally flows. By the time these revelations integrate into your consciousness and transform your relationship with money, you will understand 3 critical things. First, why your previous financial struggles were inevitable. Second, why your current breakthrough is imminent. Third, why your future abundance is absolutely guaranteed. But before we go deeper, I need you to understand something crucial. You'll see how money operates according to spiritual law, not economic theory. And here's what the wealthy elite don't want you to know. Aligning with this law makes you irresistible to wealth in all its forms. Most people will never hear what you're about to learn. They'll continue struggling because they're operating from a fundamental misunderstanding that keeps them trapped in scarcity. But you're different. You're here for a reason. The great secret that changes everything is this. Money is not a thing to be acquired, but a flow to be joined. Listen carefully. This single understanding has created more millionaires than any investment strategy, business model, or career choice combined. Most people approach money as if it were a limited resource to be captured, hoarded, and protected from others who might take it away. They live in scarcity consciousness, believing that someone else's gain must mean their loss, that wealth is finite and must be fought for. Here's the truth that will revolutionize your thinking. This fundamental misunderstanding creates the very resistance that blocks money from flowing to them. When you treat money as a scarce commodity, you create scarcity in your experience. When you approach wealth with desperation and need, you repel the very thing you're trying to attract. Money flows like water. It moves freely toward open channels and away from blocked passages. The universe operates on abundance, not scarcity. There is no shortage of money any more than there is a shortage of numbers. The same infinite intelligence that created galaxies filled with countless stars has embedded abundance into the very fabric of existence. Money is simply one expression of this infinite abundance, and it flows naturally to those who understand and align with its true nature. Let me prove this to you with a story that will change how you see wealth forever. Consider the remarkable story of Andrew Carnegie, who arrived in America as a poor Scottish immigrant with nothing but an understanding of this principle. While others saw only limited opportunities and fought each other for scarce positions, Carnegie recognized that wealth was created, not competed for. He understood that money flows to those who provide value, who solve problems, who serve others' needs. Carnegie built the largest steel company in the world by grasping this fundamental truth. Money is energy that flows toward those who facilitate its circulation. He became one of the richest men in history by focusing on serving the growing nation's need for steel, rather than focusing on his own need for money. The money followed naturally because he aligned with the flow rather than fighting against it. Stand in this same understanding and affirm with complete conviction, money flows to me naturally as I align with divine abundance. But this is just the first key. What I'm about to share next will shock you even more. The second key to understanding money's flow lies in recognizing that prosperity is your divine birthright, not a reward for struggle. The universe did not create abundance for some and scarcity for others. It created abundance for all, but only those who claim their birthright experience it. Money avoids those who believe they must earn it through suffering, and flows toward those who understand they deserve it through divine inheritance. This principle appears throughout ancient wisdom. Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth. This divine desire for your prosperity reveals that abundance is not something you must convince God to give you. It's something God is eager to pour through you when your consciousness becomes receptive to receiving it. Your soul's prosperity, your alignment with divine abundance consciousness, determines your financial prosperity. When you truly understand that you are heir to infinite wealth, because you are one with the source of all wealth, money begins flowing to you through channels you never expected, in amounts that surprise you, at times that seem miraculous. The biblical story of Solomon illustrates this principle perfectly. When offered anything he desired, Solomon asked for wisdom rather than riches. Yet because he aligned his consciousness with divine priorities, rather than material accumulation, he received both wisdom and wealth beyond measure. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. Solomon understood that money flows to those who prioritize spiritual alignment over material acquisition. Let this truth penetrate your being and declare with unwavering faith, I claim my divine birthright of infinite abundance and prosperity. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The third key reveals why money seems to multiply in the hands of some while disappearing from the hands of others. Money responds to your energetic relationship with it. If you fear money, it avoids you. If you hate rich people, you repel wealth. If you believe money is evil or corrupting, you create barriers that block its flow to you. Money is neutral energy that takes on the characteristics you assign to it. When you hold money in reverence as a tool for good, as energy that can bless others and create positive change, it flows toward you because you've made yourself a safe place for it to accomplish divine purposes. When you view money with suspicion, fear, or judgment, it moves away from you because your energy field is hostile to its presence. Warren Buffett exemplifies this principle in his relationship with wealth. Rather than seeing money as something to hoard for personal pleasure, Buffett views it as energy to be circulated for maximum benefit. His famous commitment to give away 99% of his wealth demonstrates his understanding that money flows most abundantly to those who hold it lightly and use it purposefully. Money trusts him with greater amounts because he demonstrates wisdom in its stewardship. The universe is asking you to make a revolutionary declaration right now. In the comments below, write these words: "Abundance is my natural state." This simple statement activates something profound in your consciousness. When you publicly declare abundance as your natural state, you break agreement with every scarcity belief that has limited your financial flow. Make this declaration now, then continue listening, because what follows will show you exactly how to become an unstoppable magnet for money. The fourth key unlocks the mystery of timing. Why money flows to some people at exactly the right moments, while others remain perpetually waiting for their breakthrough. Money flows according to divine timing, not human impatience. Those who understand this principle position themselves to receive abundance when the universe is ready to deliver it, rather than forcing outcomes through desperate action. Divine timing operates on perfect intelligence that sees the full picture of your life, your preparation, your purpose, and your capacity to handle wealth wisely. Money delayed is often money refined. Align with this perfect timing and affirm with complete trust: divine timing orchestrates my financial abundance for my highest good and greatest purpose. But here's what most people miss entirely, and it's the difference between temporary success and lasting wealth. The fifth key reveals the magnetic power of gratitude in attracting wealth. Money flows toward those who appreciate what they already have and away from those who focus on what they lack. Gratitude is the frequency that opens all channels of abundance, while complaint is the vibration that closes them. Most people operate from a consciousness of when I have more money, then I'll be grateful. This backwards thinking creates a vibrational barrier that repels the very abundance they desire. Money responds to present moment appreciation, not future promises of gratitude. The parable of the talents demonstrates this principle clearly. The servants who were grateful for what they were given and used it wisely received more. The servant who complained about receiving less and hid what he had lost even that. For unto everyone that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he hath. This is not cruel divine punishment, but natural spiritual law. Gratitude multiplies whatever you're grateful for, while complaint diminishes whatever you complain about. Cultivate this magnetic frequency and declare with heartfelt appreciation: I am deeply grateful for all abundance flowing to me now and always. Now, here's where most wealthy people break the rules everyone else follows. The sixth key unveils the power of circulation. Money flows to those who keep it moving and stagnates with those who try to hoard it. Wealth is like a river that must keep flowing to remain fresh and vital. When you dam up the flow through fear-based hoarding, you create stagnation that eventually cuts off your supply. When you allow money to flow through you freely, you become a conduit that attracts ever-increasing abundance. This principle challenges conventional financial wisdom that emphasizes saving and accumulation over circulation and investment. John D. Rockefeller understood this principle profoundly. Despite becoming the wealthiest person in modern history, Rockefeller never hoarded his wealth. He continuously reinvested in business expansion, philanthropic causes, and economic development. He famously said, "I believe that every right implies a responsibility, every opportunity an obligation, every possession a duty." Rockefeller's wealth grew exponentially because he treated money as energy to be circulated for productive purposes rather than security to be stored for personal protection. Embrace this principle of circulation and affirm with generous confidence, money flows through me freely, blessing others and returning to me multiplied. But what I'm about to share next is the secret that separates the ultra-wealthy from everyone else. The seventh key exposes the crucial role of purpose in attracting wealth. Money flows most abundantly to those whose prosperity serves purposes greater than personal accumulation. The universe channels resources through people who will use them to create value, solve problems, and bless others. When your wealth serves only your own desires, the flow remains limited. When your prosperity serves divine purposes, the flow becomes unlimited. This principle explains why some people with modest personal needs attract enormous wealth. They become conduits for abundance that serves purposes beyond their individual requirements. Connect with your highest purpose and declare with sacred intention, "My wealth serves divine purposes and multiplies as it blesses the world." Now, here's the final key that ties everything together, and it's the most powerful of all. The eighth key reveals the transformative power of faith in manifesting financial abundance. Money flows to those who maintain unwavering faith in divine provision, even when circumstances suggest limitation. Faith is not wishful thinking, but spiritual knowing that transcends physical appearances. When you truly know that abundance is your divine inheritance, you naturally attract experiences that validate this knowing. Most people operate from faith in lack. They believe deeply in limitation, scarcity, and financial struggle. This faith in limitation creates the exact experiences they believe in. But when you develop faith in abundance, when you know with absolute certainty that you are heir to infinite wealth, the universe must validate your faith by providing evidence of your divine inheritance. Root yourself in unshakable faith and affirm with absolute certainty, "My faith in divine abundance creates unlimited financial prosperity in my life." As these 8 keys integrate into your consciousness, you begin operating from abundance awareness rather than scarcity thinking. You recognize money as divine energy, seeking purposeful channels rather than limited resources requiring desperate pursuit. This shift in understanding automatically shifts your experience. Opportunities appear where you previously saw obstacles. Resources become available when you need them. Money begins flowing to you naturally because you've aligned with the laws that govern its movement. You are not separate from the source of all abundance. You are an expression of that source. When you align with this intelligence, when you think from its abundance rather than from human limitation, you become a magnet for wealth that serves divine purposes through human channels. Right now, as this understanding integrates fully into your being, new streams of abundance are opening in your life. Money flows to those who understand this. And now, you understand. The flow has begun, and it will continue growing stronger as your understanding deepens and your faith increases. Welcome to your new relationship with wealth. Welcome to the flow of divine abundance. Welcome to the understanding that changes everything.
You've been fed a story your whole life, a carefully woven narrative designed to make you feel small, separate, and reliant. The institutions, the systems, the so-called authorities have convinced you that God exists outside of you, remote, untouchable, beyond your grasp. You've been taught to look outward, to direct your prayers to a distant force, as if the divine lives somewhere far beyond your reach. But what if that story was a lie? What if the truth is far more powerful, far more liberating? The real God is not in the clouds or locked behind religious gates. The divine resides within you, woven into your thoughts, emotions, and very existence. They've hidden this knowledge for centuries, not because it's untrue, but because the truth would dismantle the systems that thrive on your ignorance. Understanding this isn't just about feeling empowered. It's about reclaiming the force within you that can shape worlds. If you're ready to let go of the illusion, keep listening. The truth isn't just something you hear, it's something you embody. For generations, humanity has been caught in a relentless cycle of seeking. People chase answers, salvation and purpose, hoping to find them somewhere out there. This constant search is built on the assumption that what they long for is separate, elusive, and locked behind some divine gatekeeper's approval. But what if the very act of seeking is what keeps you from finding? The top 1% understand a fundamental truth. There is nothing to seek because nothing is missing. They've realized that all power, all wisdom, and all creation reside within. This isn't a comforting platitude. It's a profound reality that reframes how you experience life. To stop seeking is not to stop desiring. Desire is the spark of creation, but the difference lies in where you direct your attention. Instead of looking outward, turn inward. When you shift from searching for an external source to embodying your internal divinity, you unlock a connection to the infinite. This shift changes how you approach everything, from how you solve problems to how you set goals. It transforms desperation into trust and scarcity into abundance. This realization sets the stage for mastering the alignment needed to manifest the life you desire, bridging the gap between belief and reality. Realizing that God is within you is just the start. The real power lies in alignment, when your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs harmonize toward a shared purpose. Picture your mind as a conductor leading an orchestra. When every instrument plays in tune, the result is harmonious. But when even one part is out of sync, the entire performance falters. Similarly, when your thoughts desire one thing but your emotions pull in another direction, the energy you send out becomes scattered and creation stalls. Alignment doesn't happen by accident. It's a conscious choice. It begins with recognizing the patterns of thought and emotion that dominate your life. Many people react to circumstances instead of shaping them. In contrast, those who master alignment cultivate inner clarity and intention, treating every thought as a seed and every emotion as the nourishment that helps it grow. To align effectively, you must confront and resolve inner conflicts. Contradictory beliefs, like desiring success but fearing failure, create resistance that blocks the flow of creative energy. The top 1% excel because they identify and replace these limiting beliefs with empowering ones, ensuring their subconscious supports their goals. Achieving this requires reflection, patience, and consistent effort. Life inevitably brings challenges, but alignment is adaptable. Those who embrace it see setbacks as opportunities to refine their intentions and grow. Committing to this process places you in a flow state where effort feels natural and results unfold effortlessly. True alignment isn't about force, but about trust and coherence, unlocking the infinite creative power within. Detachment is one of the most misunderstood yet vital aspects of manifesting desires. Many assume that focusing intensely on what they want, obsessing over it, and clinging to its outcome will bring it faster. Yet this approach often creates the opposite effect. Desperation, fear of failure, and an over-attachment to specific results disrupt the flow of energy necessary for manifestation. Detachment is not about giving up on what you want. It's about letting go of the need for it, trusting the process, and allowing the universe to deliver in its own time and way. When you detach, you align with abundance rather than scarcity, creating space for your desires to manifest effortlessly. Consider how energy flows in nature. Rivers don't struggle to reach the ocean. They follow the path of least resistance. Similarly, the top 1% understand that life unfolds best when approached with ease and trust. They set clear intentions and act decisively, but they do not grasp tightly to outcomes. Instead, they release their desires with confidence, knowing that the universe is always working behind the scenes to rearrange reality in their favor. This trust in the process signals faith, not lack, to the energy field that governs creation. When you stop trying to control every detail and step back, you make room for synchronicities and solutions you could never have imagined. True detachment also involves embracing uncertainty. While the mind craves control and predictability, the act of releasing outcomes allows the divine to work through limitless possibilities. The key is to remain focused on the feeling of already having your desire, rather than worrying about how or when it will arrive. This shift in perspective transforms the energy you emit, attracting what you want more quickly and with less resistance. Detachment is not passive. It is an active state of trust and surrender. It requires a quiet confidence in your power to create, balanced by an openness to receive what is meant for you in perfect timing. Understanding that God is within you is a profound realization, but embodying this truth takes it to an entirely different level. To embody the divine is to live each moment as a creator, fully aware of the power flowing through your thoughts, emotions and actions. It's about moving beyond intellectual understanding and stepping into a state where your life reflects the truth of your connection to the infinite. Embodying the divine requires you to align your inner world with the external reality you want to create. Every action, no matter how small, becomes a sacred act when done with the awareness of your divine nature. Whether you're making decisions in your career, nurturing relationships, or pursuing personal growth, approaching these moments with intention and presence bridges the gap between potential and reality. The top 1% understand this deeply. Their success isn't just in what they achieve, but in how they show up to every opportunity with the energy of creation rather than limitation. This process also involves becoming a living expression of the values and qualities you associate with the divine. If you see the divine as abundant, act with generosity and gratitude. If you view it as powerful, step boldly into challenges with confidence. The way you carry yourself, the choices you make, and the energy you project into the world should all reflect your belief that you are the embodiment of this force. By doing so, you not only transform your own life, but also inspire and influence the lives of those around you. Belief is the fuel that powers your divine nature. Without it, even the clearest intentions falter, yet belief doesn't emerge overnight. It's cultivated through consistent practice. The top 1% understand this well. They don't rely on bursts of inspiration. They commit to daily habits that reinforce their alignment with the divine within. Start small. It could be as simple as taking 5 minutes each morning to visualize your desires as if they're already real, or ending your day by expressing gratitude for the abundance already present in your life. Consistency is what turns belief into knowing, and knowing into reality. Each time you act in alignment with your beliefs, you strengthen the connection to your divine power, creating momentum that builds over time. The ultimate secret the top 1% understand is this: you are not separate from God. You are God in action, a unique expression of the infinite creative force of the universe. Once you embody this truth, you stop seeking and start being. The obstacles you once feared become stepping stones. Doubt is replaced with trust, and scarcity is overshadowed by abundance. Living as the divine in action means taking responsibility for your reality. It's no longer about waiting for signs or permission. It's about stepping boldly into the knowing that your thoughts, emotions, and actions are shaping the world around you every moment. Mastery of this truth requires patience and practice, but every step you take brings you closer to the full realization of your power. When you align with your divine nature, detach from desperation, and listen to your soul's voice, you unlock the ability to create a life beyond your wildest dreams. So, the question is, are you ready to embrace the truth that's been within you all along? If this content made sense to you, don't keep this knowledge to yourself. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. Help others see that they too have the power to transform their life. And remember, this is just the beginning. Subscribe to the channel to continue receiving content like this, which will help you grow, evolve, and achieve the life you deserve. Leave your comment below, telling me how you plan to put this into practice, and let's build a community focused on prosperity and transformation together.